Dude, we're getting worse.
Wait, that was better than last weekend.
Moto Academy podcast. We're back. Recording there. I got a new Fox hoodie on, so I'm pumped.
Cool.
I've had a whole situation. So I've moved too many times, and Fox
One or two.
Fox must have too many of my addresses in their system. And so every time that they send, what they do, and it's cool if I were to ever actually receive it, is that they package like a head to toe kit really, really cool in like this box. So that way you get like the,
Presentation
the unboxing
style
type of effect.
Yeah.
You got matching gloves, goggles, helmet, boots. It's all head to toe, like matching kit. And they match usually a piece of apparel with it. It's like a limited edition hoodie or something like that with it. The problem is it never goes to the correct address. So then I never see it, or it just takes me forever to track down where it actually went. So this one was the A1. It came with the A1 kit that Joshi Moto had on. It looked like it was supposed to be glow in the dark, but it wasn't glow in the dark, and it's pretty sick. I feel like it looks cool on a Honda. So
Yeah.
it went to Tampa, our Tampa apartment, which we do not live there anymore, clearly. And it got shipped in 2 boxes. So one box did finally arrive.
Yeah.
I got it shipped to a class when I went to Moto Bros to teach. I don't know, this was last month at some point. And they only shipped the boots and the helmet in that box. So I opened this giant box thinking it's going to be everything in one thing. I didn't bring any gear to this class, mind you, because we coordinated the shipment. And I open up this box to just a helmet and boots. And I'm like, son of a freaking
So
gun.
I'm out there naked, boots and a helmet on my Guts Racing seat bump, and chafing my stuff.
So thankfully, and not to mention the worst part of this story is that I flew in our videographer Ethan, from frickin' Albany, New York, to come shoot me for 2 days straight for this 2-day class. So I'm all pumped because I'm like, fresh kit, it's gonna look sick.
Yeah.
Show up, just boots and helmet, and I have nothing in my gear bag, and I'm like, son of a gun. So thankfully, Moto Bros has a pro shop and they carry Fox. So I found a jersey and pants that were my size, but it was it's like a 2-year-old kit. It kind of looks like a cow. It's like black with white and a little bit of blue, but it sort of looks like a cow.
Yeah.
And it looked cool 2 years ago when I wore it with the proper matching helmet and boots, but I had to wear, if you guys see on social media, this setup, it wasn't by choice. I mean, it looked, to me, Dave, you have to go on and see, and you'll feel poorly. You'll feel bad for me.
Okay.
Looks freaking horrible. The jersey and pants and the whole rest of the beautiful unboxing just showed up to my house an hour ago.
Oh my gosh. Has there been a time where like it shipped out to you and you just never saw it? It
yes,
got taken?
Many times.
So like there's probably some like AJ Cat limited edition kits just popping wheelies down like Dade City streets. Never to see
many
a track.
times. And not just from Fox, from like other cool sponsors too, where I want this stuff that they're sending and it's getting sent to, who knows, for Leesburg, Virginia, Reston, Virginia, Tampa, Bonita Springs, Florida, like just absolutely all over the place.
Chris O'Connor sent me something a couple weeks ago for the collective, and dude, she's like, you should have got it like a month ago, and I'm like, where do you, like, it didn't arrive, are you sure you like sent it to me and not AJ an accident, because that's happened before? And she's like, well, your address is, blah blah blah, Wisconsin, right? I'm like, I haven't lived there for like 5 years. Like Wisconsin, it's like definitely not.
Definitely not.
Like there's somebody that has some dope dirt bike stuff just somewhere in Wisconsin, but sure,
it's tough because when you move, there always is going to be that person too that just sends you stuff and doesn't double check.
Yeah.
Or they know for sure. You think that they know. So anyhow, that's my life update, and I'm pumped on my new hoodie that was in there. Last thing I need is more freaking clothes.
Cool accent color.
But this episode, what are we going to talk about, Dave Drakes? We're going to talk about very little about Indy Supercross because, to be quite honest, I wasn't super interested, and we can talk about why.
Yeah, we had the same notion.
Were you there too, physically or no?
Yeah, I flew out for that one. I ended up pulling a Daytona Supercross where we're like, well, we're just not going to get a hotel because we're going to be out super late. But I did have a hotel, did not plan to be out super late. met up with AJ Whitrock and the whole crew. Didn't get to my hotel until 3 a.m. and my flight left at 4:30. So,
Oh,
dude, I was,
God.
and I don't stay out late anymore, dude. You know that. I was so exhausted. I can't, like, I was literally a zombie going to my gate. Miserable.
Yeah, I don't, man. I remember a few times just zombieing it through airports the morning after, and what a stupid young kid I was. But we had some good times, I suppose. But now I could not handle that. Are you kidding me?
Yeah, we had some times.
1 hour sleep.
Yeah. Oh no, it was miserable. It was absolutely miserable.
I need 10 to 11.
Yeah.
Give me 10 to 11 hours sleep. I'm good.
Yeah, that would have been nice. Nemo just knocked out, dude, in the middle of the street. He was feeling super good. Had a few too many. I look over, talking to AJ about something. We're laughing. His wife Jenna showed up. We look over. Nemo's just on the ground, just on the ground. I'm like, no, dude. We get kicked out of like the most nice. Like, it's not even like a crazy bar scene. It's like Punch Bowl social. It's like skee ball and like apps. And dude is just leaned over like, we got to go home, dude. This is nuts. So yeah,
Poor guy.
We used to have some.
So
times.
I want to hear a little bit from you. I want to hear a little bit from you on Indy, and then this episode too. What we'll do, Dave, is we'll do a little bit of podcast questions. We got some questions waiting for us in the app.
Love it.
So we'll answer some podcast questions. Okay, Indy Supercross. Okay, I'll just quickly say, watching on TV, I don't know why. I can't really even put my finger on it.
Yep.
I wasn't that interested.
I felt the exact same. The only interesting thing that really took me, outside of my cynical mindset was there's a lot of cool storylines, right? And the track was pretty treacherous in time qualifying. So you had a lot of guys going down. One guy broke his femur. A lot of riders were like, hey man, I overshot this jump because of the ruts, or landed and dragged a peg and I had to eject and now my wrist hurts or something, So a lot of those little storylines. But you and I talked about this a couple of weeks ago about how much flow matters on a track. And it could be just one obstacle that's changed or something that allows the riders to click up a gear or carry more speed through this section, maybe slow down in preparation for this next section, whatever the thing is. And I felt like this track had so many cool features that could have been those cool one-off deals to make the track a bit more flowy. They were just not utilized in the right space, which you brought up. I forget which round it was, and it didn't have flow. So by themselves, there were some pretty cool sections. The raised corner before the finish, awesome. There was a step on, step off, step on, step off, right? 2 in a row, which cool feature to have. I love those sections. There was a cool either or in the section closest to the rhythms closest to the start straight. Sorry. Cool sand corner, but like everything was just tweaked enough to where it made this section not cool, or the riders couldn't flow or something like that. You know what I mean? So that kind of pissed me off a little bit because you had so many cool features that just weren't utilized, right? And I don't think it allowed for the best racing. Like it didn't allow for people to make passes and move up quickly. Yeah, it pretty much all came down to the start for me, and then it was a goat path rest of the night, So not my favorite.
Interesting how that plays out that way, where it is so track dependent. It is so track dependent where sometimes it's exciting. Like 2 races ago, I was into it. And then I watched it. I watched it last night and I was just not
thrilled. And again, any one of those obstacles, you put those on a track, I know for a fact you're having a blast. You had a decent over, a good sand section, so a good multi-decision rhythm lane. Those are all awesome obstacles, but you didn't utilize them in the right way, and it just became like, well, then what's the point of even having it, dude? Like, why give me a Ferrari if I'm going to be stuck in traffic the whole time? It made me angry.
So for me, the best race I thought of the night was the one race I did get into is the 250 LCQ.
Yes,
and that was where Henry was right there on the chopping block. Yep. Faulkner was kind of battling for that last transfer spot. Henry basically almost had him in the last turn because he went around railed the outside.
Yes.
And Faulkner it was smart what Faulkner did, and it was also really smart what Henry did, because the gap wasn't closed just yet if you watch that footage back. So at like first glance, you would think that he would have actually slingshot off and tried to jump that step down before the finish. But the direction Faulkner was heading, he would have just jumped into him, and they probably both would have crashed. So Henry did just check up. But it was interesting because I was rooting for Henry to get it.
Yeah.
But I was also kind of simultaneously hoping that Faulkner wouldn't not get it.
Exactly.
But it was entertaining because I'm like, Faulkner, think about the difference between, yes, I know he did just have brain surgery. So, but the difference between just that little edge for a guy like Faulkner to be a championship hopeful or winning races or even dominating races too, getting the last transfer spot in a main event.
People are going to say like, yeah,
it's that much.
Yeah. They're going to say, oh, how could he fall, so far down? It's like, it's not that far. You're right. It's this much of like that little bit of grit and that tenacity, and it could knock you off your spot. A little bit of the shake of the confidence, a little bit of a mindset change, and that's kind of where you end up. Now, the fact that the guy's just racing, period, I think we're going to give him applause, because that was a gnarly surgery, gnarly injuries stacked up over the years. So you got to give the guy his due respect, because it is good, and he is a fast rider. But you're right, man. It's a razor's edge difference between winning titles and like just being in the show. You know what I mean?
Totally. And there is definitely the connotation or the misconception that I think people think that the guys kind of right there on the bubble aren't really that good. And they are really, really good. And I think that's actually perfect proof that it's not that Faulkner is riding horribly right now. It's not that Faulkner is slow right now, because I bet you he's not. It's just that little bit, that 1% difference, that fraction of a percent, definitely, especially now, can bring you from being a top 3 guy to all of a sudden you're a 7th to 10th place guy, or a fraction of a percentage off that, and all of a sudden you're a bubble of a main event guy. It doesn't take much. It doesn't take much at all.
It really doesn't. And people are going to say it, have said it since the dawn of time. Every rider at the pro level is an insanely fast and talented rider. I don't care who you pick from, free practice and 250 Group C. It may not look like they're going that fast, but I promise you get them at your local track and you'll see just how talented those guys are by the stuff that they're doing. They deserve more credit. And like people are saying like, oh, we shouldn't be battling with a guy like Henry Miller. Henry Miller is one of the fastest dudes when it comes to riding dirt bikes. That guy hole shot in Millville didn't last long, but dude is a top 10 outdoor rider when he wants to be, So it's nuts. Let me ask you this: do you think the way that Faulkner's riding, is that more so of he just lost a little bit of that 1%? Is it him being like, hey, I have that 1%, but I'm just trying to get my feet. I just want to finish a season, and then we'll worry about building next year back to that old school Faulkner. Or is it something else that you think that's, I don't want to say plaguing him, but that's on his, maybe in his purview as to why he's not top 3 in points right now and not the Faulkner we were used to seeing in years past? What's the thing?
Yeah, there's a few things that could play like little factors. I would guess that, and this is all a complete guess, I would guess that he's probably came into this season some percentage less prepared than he would have in other seasons. I would guess. Again, making this up. I think what that does is takes the belief away a little bit. Just a little bit. And then maybe it could be a combination of, is he afraid to get hurt? There could be a little bit of that playing into it too. Again, just making it up. But all it takes is 1 or 2 of those things to not be firing on all cylinders. And all of a sudden you're off by that 1% or that 2%. It's hard to believe in yourself if you're not totally prepared. It's hard to believe in yourself if you're subconsciously worried about getting hurt. This is me just assuming, but I see it in many other riders. I've had that issue myself too. And so when I watch him, out there like getting that last transfer spot. And it's also easy to let it compound on you too, where if your season isn't going the right way and it starts to go the opposite direction than you want it to, all of a sudden your goal becomes, let's just make this freaking main event instead of let's do the best I can. We should be top 10 in this main event, probably be top 5 in this main event. Your headspace can start to go to, okay, I just got to get it in this thing. And then you're defensive about all of it. So again, I'm just kind of, that's maybe how I have felt in the past. But yeah. So other than 250 LCQ, wasn't that interested.
Nothing really shocked me. Deegan was fast, made a couple mistakes, overrode. I was really looking forward to 450 and see like, oh man, like we got a Roxon track, it's a little bit more of the ruggedness. We got a little bit of the again, those cool one-off obstacles. Little did we know that they're put in the wrong place and not really flowy.
Did Roxon just get buried on the
but yeah.
Did Roxon just get buried in the start and never caught back up?
Got him and Malcolm both buried on the start. And just couldn't make their way around. It was a really hard track to pass on, as you saw. So, funny story, I actually sat next to Big James the entire time. If I was any closer to the guy, I would have been sitting in his lap. Like we were literally, it was him, me, and then Julian, the team owner from Partzilla, and we were just talking, and we see like, this big figure just throw a chair down in the middle and just start like, doing his whole like, the Big James isms. If no one's ever seen Big James at a race, he does these weird like,
it's almost like he's a baseball coach.
It's exactly what it is. And doing the stuff. He wasn't too thrilled with that main event. I'll say that. Stoked on the heat race win, but not thrilled on the
Big James is like he's like a third base. He's like the coach that's like stands by third base and just does all the signals to
all the signals. Which no one can see but him. Just no one. Malcolm can see you from like 800 yards away. But him and Kenny just buried, man, and like you could see them trying to make inroads and some guys in front of them. But I talked with Jackson about this. It almost felt like in order to pass the guy in front of you, and of course as you ascend up the laps, the guys get faster and faster that you're trying to go up against, right? So going from 15th place, now you caught up to 10th place. It's gonna be harder to pass 10th place than it is to pass 15th place. So as you pick the guys off one by one, it almost felt like you had to ride in a way that dropped your lap time to get past the guy you wanted to get past. So then by the time you got past him, 9th place already has picked up an extra 2 seconds because you were battling with this guy. So it's like, well, geez, now I got to work my butt off, make up the time difference, and then some to get this guy. Then it happens all over again. So it really made for some crazy finishes. Like I don't think this is one race where results tell the full story of how hard some guys in the class raced. So yeah, really tough to get passes. But yeah, Malcolm got buried. AP got buried for a little bit, but was a little bit better off in the second corner, and it just not, some guys just did not have the best night.
All right, so we'll dive into podcast questions then, if no more Indy talk.
Yeah,
anything else you want to talk about from Indy?
TMA group showed out in numbers. So shout out to the TMA group: Premix Papa, Caitlin, Shaken Blake, Ball 328.
Way.
Maddie Flood. Like I got pictures with everybody. The crew came out in numbers, dude. So it was so great to see that. And that's one thing that, like, if you're at the races and like the TMA crew is there, number one, you got family in attendance. Number two, you're going to have a good time. So that was awesome. Love to see that.
That's cool. Yeah. Indy, I forgot Premix Papa territory when we're talking Indy. Yep. Man, I missed that guy. Premix Papa, by the way, is committed to, don't know if this is public knowledge. We're dropping some top secret information, but we're going to fly Premix Papa in for 2 out of 3 summer camps that we're doing this summer, so he can spend the entire week with us. And I'm like, because in my head, I'm thinking, what better person to have, even if it's just for morale boosting throughout the week, but what a great guy to have for the entire week. So I sent him a message a few months ago, just trying to get on his calendar. Yeah. And it turns out he can do 2 full weeks. So I want to say maybe he's doing the Salt Lake City one. And I think he's doing one of the weeks at Winchester, which, by the way, guys, if you haven't signed up for summer camp yet, whether it be the Salt Lake City summer camp or Winchester Speed Park in New Hampshire, don't wait.
Please
Especially the New Hampshire ones. They're selling like crazy this early. So don't wait. We use Affirm on our website, which means that you can get 0% no interest payment plans. So if you want to break it into payments, do it, but lock in your spot now. And even if you want to just buy a refundable ticket, lock in your spot now, buy a refundable ticket. So if something changes, you can cancel and get your refund. But they're filling up, and dude, I can't wait.
We're going to have such a good, the stuff that we're talking about doing inside our group chat, I promise you, like, and 9 times out of 10, that stuff ends up coming to fruition. So I'm excited to see how it's going to be implemented and like to see all the people's eyes light up for all the stuff we've got planned, all of the cool, like little one-off events, the coaching itself. Like it's starting to become like the coaching and the dirt bike riding is like 1B compared to the other stuff that we're gonna be coming up with. So I'm really excited. What I get this question a lot, and then we can get into the questions. What's the best way to attend the class? Do you recommend people fly in for it and like rent bikes? Do you recommend people kind of like bring their bike and drive through cross country? Like what way do you recommend people show up for the classes or for the summer camps?
Oh, for summer camps? I think it's kind of a cool concept. At least last year, there were a lot of people that just made a little road trip out of it too, and drove 5 hours, 10 hours, 20 hours, 30 hours. There were some people at our summer camp, especially in Illinois last year, that came from a really far ways away. But they brought the family, they brought the motorhome, they camped for the whole week. It just kind of, they made it a thing. We're also going to be renting bikes for the summer camp as well. So if you want to fly in from overseas, come stay for a week, do it. Yeah, I can't wait. Especially the Winchester ones. We're going to have the Supercross track under the lights for nighttime. Yeah. That was one of the last things we were talking about in the group chat, was trying to figure out the hours and who we're going to have over there manning it. And it's a lot to coordinate for sure as a business owner, but I think it's going to be freaking awesome. And the Supercross under the lights will make it so that our daytime can be maybe a little more paced. Because if I learned any lesson from last year at these summer camps, it's that you cannot go wide open for 5 days straight. Yeah. Or you will kill yourself. Yeah. Like the way I had it structured I don't know if it was like this for the students. I think it was probably okay for the students, but for me and for our instructors, it was absolutely wide open from the time we woke up till we went to bed for 5 days straight. And we need to just slow the pace of the day a little bit. Yeah. We're so used to showing up for the tour where it's, you show up, it's 9 to 3:30, whatever it is, cram as much as you possibly can into that time block. Don't take a lunch break. Don't really take any breaks, period. Just try to get as much done as you can. So changing the pacing a little bit for next year, we learned having the Supercross under the lights at night will allow us to do that even more. We could pace ourselves through the day. Everybody could get 3-4 hours, have good dinner, and then go hang out at the Supercross track for a couple hours for a little nightcap.
That's going to be awesome. That's going to be so cool. The memories it's going to bring back for everybody. Oh my God.
All right. Podcast questions from inside the app. Let's do it.
Let's go.
Let's do it. So if you guys aren't in the app, for gosh sakes, get in there. Go to themotoacademy.com and subscribe to any tier. If you're in the community tier, which is just $9.99 a month, you have access to all the community feed, most of the cool features that you would want, honestly. Basically, and the amount of engagement that we now have with the community is pretty ridiculous, to be quite honest.
It's improving. People are posting like Coaching Wanted #1. That's been blowing up. But people are just posting like, hey, I got this new, seat, these new foot pegs. I'm gonna do a cool review on it. Or hey, check out these new goggles I just got. Or here's this cool video I put together. Like they're starting to pop off and use it like a social media, which is super cool.
Totally. Yeah. Totally. And I'll say one thing quickly about that. I know we keep delaying getting these questions, is that the more that people post inside of the app, the more comfortable others are to be posting. Yes. And I think that the more even that people see me being vulnerable, or anybody being vulnerable, or posting a question that maybe one could regard as a silly question, or maybe they would be self-conscious and think that it's silly, and just putting themselves out there a little bit to ask for help, I think that opens the door for others to do the same.
Yeah.
And unfortunately, with real social media that's not the Moto Academy app, I think that most people don't pursue trying to build their accounts for that reason.
Yeah.
I think that people are afraid to put themselves out there. People are afraid to embarrass themselves.
Yeah.
And I was reflecting on this a little bit today. I think I was thinking about the Daniel Blair situation. And then I somehow thought about myself and all of the stupid things that I've done or said over the years. And the fact that I don't care. Like, what a nice feeling to not, like the book page I read you the other day where I said you have to be unembarrassable.
Yeah.
If you're posting regularly on social media, like we're putting up, I don't know, 8 posts a day across all of our social platforms, it is guaranteed that you're going to make yourself look silly at some point.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I think if you can embrace that and just be unembarrassable and not concerned with what other people are thinking and judging your content, then you're better off for doing so. And you have to have that mentality to build social media. But anyhow, tying that back into the app, I think the app is just a safe space where people feel comfortable, like they can be themselves. And it's a beautiful thing. And the amount of engagement just between absolutely everybody, the amount of live streams and the variety of live streams that we have, like your and Jackson's on Sunday night. We have Ethan's where you can log on and join a live stream when Ethan is, I think, I haven't been on his either, but when he is editing content, so it's more of like a content creator's live stream. You've got our community live streams with myself or Coach Mitchell. We've got the mastermind live streams where we talk mindset. You've got Coaching Wanted, which has been absolutely popping off, too much so, to the point where today was 65 degrees in Connecticut, and I didn't leave the house because I couldn't leave my desk because I was answering Coaching Wanted all day long. But it's okay. Keep sending them in.
What we want. Yeah.
That's what I'm here for. Keep sending them in.
I'm stoked.
Okay, first question from Baw328.
Let's go.
Absolute shout out, Baw328. Podcast question. If we played basketball, we would be shooting free throws daily. But we don't play basketball. We ride freaking dirt bikes. So in a perfect world, we could also ride every day. In your opinion, what would be the free throw of Moto Academy? Or sorry, what would be the free throw of Moto and done daily?
Oh, that's a good question.
That's a good question. Dave, do you have an answer for that? The free throw of Moto. What is your free throw of Moto?
Free throw of Moto is circle track stand-up drill. That to me that's your bread and butter right there. You don't turn track, something small in the backyard, standing up the whole time. You're working out, keeping your eyes up. You're working on your form because you're standing. You're using a lot of your core, but mostly your legs, keeping the arms light. You're usually not high speed, so you're working on balance. You're working on throttle control, clutch. Like you're getting all of the fundamental pillars, I feel like, are in that. And it's also fun because you're not having to worry about like, oh crap, no, I got to hit a triple. No, I got to hit this thing. And that it's like, you're taking out some of the crazy variables that keeps your head spinning. The fear is down. And it's just you and your dirt bike cutting in some technique. To me, that's where it's at right there.
If we played basketball, we would be shooting free throws.
Yeah.
What would be the free throw of Moto? Yeah. I would agree with you, Dave. Stand up only. I think it doesn't matter if you're in an oval, a figure eight, or a turn track. I think any of those 3 options are beautiful options. But yeah, I'm going to have to agree. Stand up only.
Yeah.
Because it hits all of the things.
It does.
I mean, yeah. If you
really
can,
does.
If you can be good at that and master that and do that every day, it builds all the things. It's the most
Yeah.
physically demanding thing you can do is standing up on the bike.
Yep.
You'd still have access to be able to be working all the controls. Depending on the dynamic in your dirt, that definitely plays a bit of a factor. I've been giving people lately, great question, Baw328, by the way. Very good question. And I know Baw328 is doing his stand-up only drills. I've been giving people at class and inside of the app a bit of a framework for what their day at the track can look like as far as structuring their motos. And this is trying to put this as briefly as possible. 4-moto format. So you go to the track for a practice day, 4 motos, 4 times hitting the track. This is what they should look like. First session out, stand up only. The golden standard for duration is 20 to 30 minutes.
Ooh.
I know that might sound long and most people can't make it 20 to 30 minutes standing up. No way. But build to that. If at first you can only make it 5 minutes, great. If you can only make it 7, great. But standing up only to start your day just sets the intention right. It makes it so that you can learn the track more safely. You can actually get into a flow way, way better when you learn the track standing up as opposed to just kind of throwing everything in all at once. And it's just a really good way to start the day, especially if you're a person that gets arm pump in your first session, kind of has to write your first session off. Stand up only that first moto. Second moto, you're allowed to sit down, but you have to keep both feet on the peg. So Moto 2 is feet on the pegs entire moto. Golden standard would be, again, 20 to 30 minutes. The reason the duration should be longer is so that you don't feel like you have to be in a rush or to do sprint laps. All 4 of these motos, in my opinion, should be done tempo, starting really slow and slowly building into a pace to where your fastest laps can come in your last few laps. Moto 3, third time you hit the track, 1 hand drill. Be careful if you're at a public track and you haven't done this drill yet. Obviously, use your best judgment. I can probably go to any track and ride one-handed. Granted, I've been doing that drill since I was 3 years old, so it's not really fair. But one hand drill. The reason you do it as third moto is it just creates a really good reset for the day. If you're struggling with a section or one part of your riding and you can't really pinpoint what it is, taking that hand off, you will instantly realize. Fourth moto is, again, you can sit down, but feet have to stay on the pegs, and it's kind of just trying to piece together the whole rest of the day. Again, 20 to 30 minutes. The only moto that's shorter than 20 to 30 minutes is your one-hand moto. That should be 8 to 15 minutes. So that's the structure. Four motos, you're in and you're out of there. It should take 2 hours or less. I've got some really good feedback on how it's working for people. I've tried that exact structure myself. So Dave, when you hit the track, try it, report back, let me know. And everybody else, try it, let me know.
Yeah, I'm going to complain. I'm going to make some noise. I'll raise my voice, but you know.
Ooh, okay. I don't think we've answered this one yet. Xander Wood. Shout out Xander Wood, really fast. He is actually going to be one of our Moto Academy athletes. Podcast question. Can we talk about flaggers? There's a lot of hype about flaggers at the amateur and amateur national events, and some of it is concerning. Dave, have you ever had a flagger experience? Positive or negative?
Southwick, for sure. Typically Southwick has decent flaggers because they usually pull out people like locals all the time. So, but it was Southwick. I think I can't remember the year. I was on big bikes. The track was going. Which way does the track go now? It was going backwards from where it's going, from the direction it's going currently.
So left off the start.
Yep. And do you know the section where Stewart, whatever year it was in the 450, bike locked up kind of like down like that little gully up at the top of the track?
Where the old parking was.
Yep.
Up on the hill.
Around that section, somebody was down and I came just hauling it through that section. And I don't think they were able to get the flag out in time or their head was turned or something. And I just tried to avoid it and bike swapped. I'm all over the place. Look, there's a little body of water sitting right there. Went right in the water. I had to pull my bike out, dude. It was a pain, but nothing too like insane. We're like, oh, dude, I ended up getting like run over. Or, I avoided that one, but I know there's some scenarios where people are getting like really, really hurt.
That section is the worst section at Southwick for that to happen too.
Yeah.
I've had many experiences. You want to know where I've had multiple and probably some of the worst?
Oh, where's that?
It was actually at Mini O's.
Really? Wait, outdoors,
Yeah, I don't know
outdoors
what
or
it
Supercross?
was.
Which one?
Both. But the Moto track, I'd say the Moto track more
Supercross?
frequently. I don't know if it's just there's a lot of steep hills and there's a lot of
Yeah.
elevation, and so or I don't know where they're sourcing their flaggers from for Mini O's, but I specifically remember some not so good situations that I was actually involved in. And then I've seen some video clips, or I've been in the stands watching, and everybody in the stands are like, there's somebody down.
Yeah.
And the flaggers just kind of, and this was before the age of cell phones even. I mean, I'm talking Mini O's days when I was on 60s, 80s.
Oh,
People weren't like sitting there on their cell phone type of deal. But yeah, you have incidents though, even in the pros, where if it's left up to a human, you're going to have human error. That's why I think that's actually why I think the argument for the Cardo systems is such an obvious one.
Yeah.
Or just having an in-helmet communication system. Mm-hmm. What are your thoughts on that? Because I also was watching Formula One Drive to Survive last night, which I've never watched, and I was getting so into it.
Oh my! Do you know what? I've been telling. Hold on. I hate the fact that I tell you stuff like, "Hey, you know what's pretty cool? This one series," and you're like, "Dude, nah, no worries." And then 4 years later, you're like, "You know what's cool? This drive. Have you seen this Drive to Survive stuff?" I'm like, you frustrate me to no end. But yeah,
It's so good.
It's amazing. Which is, I was talking to Premix Papa about this. I swear to God, this past weekend, and he asked me like, "What's one thing that you would love to change in the sport?" And I love that question. I try to ask it of our guests when they're on the pod and stuff. And I mentioned like, I think what we would benefit from. There's a long list, right? There's a laundry list of things that we'd love to change, especially your perspective being a pro. Like, what would you like to see done at the races? And I was like, you know what? I see what Drive to Survive did for Formula One. If you're not a motorsports racer, you probably have never heard about Formula One ever. Not, I think we've heard of it, but it wasn't in our purview, right? What that series has done was showcase not only amazing racing, but the drama behind the racing, the drama behind funding, the drama behind different seats being open in different teams, just getting to the races, like the whole COVID deal and who's saying what about this guy, and it's social media. Now, if you look at that sport, it is so much more polished and clean than Supercross. They have compared to Supercross, Motocross, they have their stuff together like you wouldn't believe. Now, can you imagine all of the drama, the he said, she said, the corruption behind the door, all this crazy stuff that would happen if they showcased it, or that they'd be able to showcase on this show? Like, think about it, AJ, like just one of the teams that you've been on. You can pick any team, and you could there's a laundry list of, oh my gosh, if like this would be such a good thing to show on a reality TV show, and now multiply that times all the teams in Supercross, we would have 18 seasons. You know what I mean? It would showcase the sport in such a cool way that I think it'd bring in so much more funding, eyes, attention, you name it.
I think it's only a matter of time until that happens too. And when it does, I really, obviously we say this with a bias, but you'd have to imagine it would be really, really freaking interesting, because the Formula One, I've never watched a full Formula One race, but I was watching it last night and thinking to myself, holy cow, I could get into this. Like,
yes.
Super. I think season 7 is the most recent one.
Oh yeah. Yep.
And Lewis Hamilton had just announced that he's switching from Mercedes to Ferrari, so it was leaving Carlos Sainz out of a seat, and Carlos Sainz has his appendix taken out, and then wins the next race, I'm pretty sure. Spoiler alert. But this was, I'm pretty sure, so if it's on Netflix now, that means that
was a previous
2024 season.
Previous. And not only that, they showcased the conversation between Toto Wolff, which is team principal for Mercedes, and like Hamilton was his guy. That's a severing of a relationship. Like not even just switching seats. Like Lewis Hamilton and Toto brought Mercedes almost to prominence. You know, they weren't an 8-time team when Hamilton went over there. So all of that drama and all of that, the severing of that bond and what that means not only to Mercedes, but what that means for Ferrari now, having their first black driver and all the stuff that comes along with that. And, dude, it's insane. It pulls you in so much. And we have all that in Supercross. We have those stories. So I mean, it would be so cool. But yeah, after you watch that show, you're gonna want to watch a Formula One race, and you're gonna watch it so much differently than someone who's never watched the reality TV series. You're literally gonna be like on the edge of your seat because you're gonna know those drivers intimately. You're gonna know the problems with the car, the shortcomings with the team. It pulls you in like a different level.
I was wondering how we got started talking about that, but where we need to start, Dave, is in-helmet communication.
Okay. Oh, crap. Yeah. Oh, geez.
Duh. We need to start with in-helmet
yeah.
communication because I watched that show and they show the dynamic of kind of the team communication as they're driving.
Mm-hmm.
There are so many freaking uses for that in Moto.
Yes.
So many. You would no longer would the situations of a flag or human error be an issue.
Nope.
You'd be able to communicate to somebody in 2 seconds. Now, would there have to be guidelines as to like how you could use it?
Yes.
Would it change the racing? Yeah, but I almost think that would be interesting because there'd be so many angles that you could play there. And think about from a fan's perspective, you could get into the helmet of the team communicating with the rider and vice versa, rider communicating back to the team.
Yeah.
I mean, shoot, that would be the most interesting thing of all time. Again, we say this with a bias because we love Supercross, but
yeah.
And then at any level, at Winchester, since you just asked about Winchester, Dave, I want to have a rental system or something to where when parents show up for the race, they can rent a Cardo system for the day, and we'll set it up in their helmet. We'll get them all hooked up and give them a quick maybe lesson of how it works. I also want to do sort of like hire a coach for a day.
Mm-hmm.
And so you can get a Cardo system in your helmet, and then you could have one of the Moto Academy coaches in your ear as you're racing for that day. I think there's a lot of cool concepts that I have with it. Yeah. And I'm excited to test it in our own Supercross promotion to where, we're not held down by, it's not an AMA sanctioned event or we don't have to abide by this or that. We can really try what we want. I'm pumped because I'm obsessed with the Cardo system. And also we have partnered at the end of last year. Actually, we partnered with Cardo, signed an extension to that deal. So we were partnered with Cardo this year.
Nice.
And yeah, lots of good stuff coming, Dave. Have you used it yet on a moto track?
I have not used it on Moto Track. I've used it for chassis development when I was doing that for Harley a couple years ago. We used that to communicate between just different handling exercises, stuff like that. But I have not, and I think it'd be cool. Like if you can separate it almost into 3 silos where you've got racing strategy and tactic is a benefit, rider safety, like you mentioned. But also you could have, there's a mechanic component too, where if someone's smoking their clutch or someone has an issue, the mechanic can get on and say, hey, lay off the clutch. We got to have this engine last for the next 5 laps or something. Or, hey, rear shock's getting hot. I would jump through the whoops. I wouldn't skim them or so whatever it is. I think there's some really cool silos that you can break it up into and where they would benefit. So I see it as a plus. I think it's cool. Makes our sport safer, but also adds another element to it, which I'm all for that,
Yeah, if every other motorsport has it, why don't we have it yet? I've no clue. But good question. Good question, Xander Wood, even though that was not the question. What was his question? Oh, flaggers. Good question. All right, we got another one. Peter Estavina asks, some people can just be fast, not even worried about technique. On the other hand, I'm not even close to that. If I don't put time into the basics, I float into an ocean of constant injuries. I'm not talented to the point where I can just do it. Either I can learn fast if I put the time in and sacrifice for it. Where are you in this aspect? And what do you think is the best path for a life of dedication to moto? Well, Peter, I think you know where I stand on that. And that is also, though, coming from a person that a lot of people would have said I was the one who, a person that was sort of talented, or maybe it came easy to me. But that was only because I learned all the skills when I was so young.
Yeah.
When I was 2, 3, 4, 5 years old. So by the time I was 12 or 13, racing an 85 or super mini, and going really, really fast and doing all of these things. But
that was part of your natural.
It was completely part of me. I could do it better than I could walk already at age 12 or 13 because I'd just done it so many times before then. I do not believe that was I wasn't born with that talent. There was nothing crazy. I just learned a lot of the right things really, really early. I think there's a lot of people at a local level, and Peter, maybe guys that you're witnessing, that have a lot of a lack of fear, maybe, and can get there's no question. And I get a lot of pushback here. Hey, this guy just won this race, or this guy can do this, and look at the way that he rides. There's no question that there's many different ways that you can go fast, but for how long is the question?
Yeah. Yep.
It's almost, for some people, when you watch some people ride, they are almost like a ticking time bomb, and it's okay, when is this guy gonna bite the dust? Yeah. Dave, you were always really good, I feel like, about, for the most part, you were pretty calculated.
Yeah, I never took big risks. Yeah, I mean, there were times when you were literally like, David, you have to do this jump. And I was like, no, I'm good. You're like, no, yeah. And honestly, I wish that I was able to, I had, like, my dad, like, he was a huge proponent for the sport. He loved the sport to death, but I don't think he valued the technical aspect of it as much. Old school mentality, grip it and rip it, got to be faster. That guy beat you because he's holding on longer. That's like, pretty much. Like,
maybe you're saying he didn't maybe appreciate the difficulty of like what it would take to do that double or that thing.
100%. Or like, hey, I think we did a handful of classes over the years, right? But not like to the extent that you did. I remember you did Gary Semick's class. I remember you did a flat track class at our indoor track where you're in the corner doing circles for like 2 days, and I'm like, what is this kid doing? But like that's why you have a phenomenal throttle control right now. I wish I had more emphasis on that, because I mean, I feel like I got to A class without really honing in on fundamental stuff, and it wasn't until like, college where I was like, all right, I want to start going even faster. And when you were like, yeah, dude, your elbows suck, your foot placement sucks, you got to look ahead, and all of those classes I did, one after college and stuff like that. But yeah, I wish I would have had that focus on classes and technique. And a lot of people have that option easily presented to them now because of TMA, or whoever else you you say is out there. But I feel like through the app, that could be accessible to anybody. And I wish that was something that I had, when I was a little younger. But yeah, I didn't really take a lot of risks when I was, younger, especially like 85 super mini, first year on big bikes. Dude, I was back of the pack. I wasn't trying to get involved with any sort of craziness. Wasn't until B class that, like, okay, I'll start hucking this or doing that or whatever.
I think that's a great way to be. I think that's how people honestly should lean that direction, because it's just, if you don't have that mentality, it can be so dangerous, and it can get so dangerous so quickly
without the technique and the training.
Think of the flat track school.
Yeah. Dude, I was like, why is he out there in a TTR 125 just spinning donuts, dude? Like, what is he doing?
I remember it being so much fun too. Yeah. And yeah, man, if my dad, there was some things that he knew, if an instructor came into town, I was going.
You were going.
So whether it be David and Gary Bailey came and did one, or Tony D. So Tony DiStefano schools. I remember doing.
Yeah, that's one of those. Throwback. Wow.
Yeah. Gary Semix, the flat track schools. So that was with Kenny Carr. I mean, Tony LaRusso, obviously being at
Oh yeah,
CTMX.
That's a given. We all did that. Yeah.
Yep.
Yep.
I'm sure there's so many more. And I don't remember learning a lot all at once from anybody. But the reason it's important, I always stress this too, and this is coming from, I'll toot my horn really quick. I think Moto Academy is providing the most holistic process of a way to learn how to ride a dirt bike that's ever existed by far. I mean, if you can learn absolutely everything, and not only can you learn everything, but you can learn exactly the step-by-step process of how to do it. And I still encourage everybody to train with everybody, because you never know how somebody's going to say something and how it's going to resonate with you at the time that you need to hear it. You never know. And I think that accidentally, that is how I learned, is I went to every coach that you could imagine. And even when I was 14, 15, 16, so now we're getting to training facility days, being at MTF and GPF and Club MX and working with all the trainers
Davies
that were
and
there.
stuff like that. Yeah.
Yeah, Davey Millsaps, and Ezra Lusk was at Davey Millsaps, so we were working with him. I've spent so much time around so many different people that I was just able to kind of either consciously pick and choose, or most of it was probably just something resonated just the right way, and it would just stick.
Yep.
Like I'll for example, and I could actually probably think of many examples of this. At Club MX, and see, like I'll plug other people all day long here, by the way. The amount of people I've probably sent to Club MX is sickening. I should probably be getting a check from them. Club MX, I was riding a Supercross track, pretty gnarly layout. The dirt was soft on the top pad, especially back then when they first, this was one of the first years they had a Supercross track. So it was like super rutted. And I was getting really bad arm pump, and I was getting arm pump in one spot. It was, you would jump the finish line, you would take a right-hand turn, and you would go down the start straight. So if anywhere on the Supercross track, I'm getting tight and getting arm pump going down the start straight. And the reason is because it was choppy and there was acceleration bumps coming out of the turn. So I was sliding back on the seat a little bit, and the weight was going down into my arms. And Brandon, who owns Club, I said that, and he goes, "Whoa, are you thinking about pushing backwards on your outside foot? Like, think about the angle that your foot is at on your outside foot. Are you putting pressure down into that? Because that will put pressure backwards. Therefore, it will hold your butt in place. And so you don't have to use your arms as you accelerate out of the corner." And I was like, no, I've never heard that in my life. You know, something so obvious. And I remember that moment very vividly. And also, what's interesting is like Brandon at Club was not one, from what I remember, like giving a lot of technical advice. At least not to me. That was probably the one piece of technical advice that he ever gave me.
Yeah.
And it was at the perfect time, said the perfect way, and I never forgot it. One other example of that is I was at MTF training with Colleen Millsaps when I was 15. So I was getting close to turning pro, riding the Supercross track, and she was having us jump the finish line, and she had a cone set up, and we were having to jump the finish line and turn inside of the cone. And where she put this cone, when I saw it, I was like, impossible. There's no way I can clear this finish line and make it inside of that cone.
Yeah.
And she watched me a couple times, and she goes, "Well, AJ, you're never going to make it inside of that cone because you're pulling your clutch in to brake." And I said, "Well, what do you mean?" "Well, of course I'm pulling my clutch in to brake."
Yeah.
And she goes, "No, you're supposed to brake without pulling the clutch in." I was 15 years old. I was about to turn pro, and I didn't know to not brake
With the clutch. Yeah.
I was pulling the clutch in and just skidding, you know, not knowing that you're supposed to brake with the front and rear together without the clutch, so you actually get some engine brake and some wheel chatter and get that bike to plant and anchor. I had no idea. And the way that she said it, when she said it, like it blew my mind so much that I never forgot it.
Jeez.
And it's little stuff like that.
Yeah, I remember Tony LaRusso at CTMX had a race. This is the race where I had to run from class because I was in engineering school. I had to run from class, grab my bike, and then go to the race. I had like a crazy Saturday morning, whatever, class for a couple hours. And I'm like reading between motos, which is super nerdy. But there was a section there was a section where like, I don't know if you remember, AJ, but like, you know where the table to table was? It's like this big, it's like two tabletops spaced like 100 or so feet apart. The table to table in the back, 105. There you go. 105-foot double, and you would hit that, and then you'd hit a sweeper and kind of go into that quad track. Well, he ran it backwards for a little bit, or at least that back section. So you're coming this way on the sweeper, you're coming back into the main track, and right at the end of the sweeper, it started to get really ruddy, and I still had my leg out going through that section. I'm like, man, my bike is just wanting to fight me through it. I feel like I'm going to go down every time I come out of that sweeper. And someone's like, oh yeah, just pick your leg up and stand up. And I was like, what? He's like, yeah, just go a little more outside and stand up. That way, when you go through the ruts, you're not worried about the bike's you have no lean angle. The bike's just going straight. And I was like, oh my gosh, is that all it takes? Dude, it was the easiest set. 50 riders were doing it. And I could not get there myself. And someone's like, yeah, just pick your leg up, fatty. And I was like, oh, okay. That's easy. Made way no world of difference, dude. So
sometimes that's all it takes.
Dude,
I used to love
all the time
that being at Rocky Hill, that when it was, I always think of that direction as the reverse direction for some reason.
Yep.
Hitting that sweeper as a right-hander. And then I remember at one point he had it set up so it was like an option where you could go step up on the left side, I think.
Yep.
And then it was into the 105. And I was hitting it on a Super Mini, a stock Super Mini, of course.
Suspicious.
And yeah, that was the obstacle that I had to learn how to double upshift in the air. Because the only way for me to clear that, keep in mind, this is a 105-foot table to hip table. It was massive from what I remember, especially when I was on a Super Mini.
And like the face of the jump was like, it was huge. It was a humongous, giant.
I mean,
table.
Picture a tabletop and then picture another tabletop stacked on top of that tabletop.
Yeah. And then a landing 100 feet that way.
So there was two of them. They were wicked tall, but wicked short. So they're really fun to scrub just individually if you weren't jumping it. And then to jump the whole thing, it was massively tall and it was very far apart. I mean, so it felt less like a table to table. It felt more like a double, honestly.
Yeah.
Just felt like a massive double. And I started doing it when I was on 85s, or I think Super Minis when I started doing it. And I learned how to double upshift because I'd come out of that corner in third and I'd shift up fourth, shift up fifth in the air and just feather that clutch on the landing to keep those RPMs up. And I'd be able to, I wish there was a video or a picture or something.
Because that bike must have been straight up and down in the air, dude. For you to be able to hit
straight up and down.
Yeah.
That was where I played around with, I called it Ryan Mills style because Ryan Mills, who was a very fast rider in New York, I would always see him at District 34. And I thought he had the coolest style of all time. He would always on his 125 just yank it and go straight up and down and put his head way over the front.
Well, because
Davey Millsaps used to do that back in the day too.
Yeah, you have to. And on 125, you had to. By the way, D34 had the scariest tracks of all time. Every jump was a massive, like,
huge.
You could barely even roll it. And then you'd land on like a step up 300 feet that way somewhere. So, of course, dude, on 125, he was praying that he wouldn't break his frame, dude. You had to be straight up and down.
Think of those tracks, too. And again, I was so young that it's like, do I just remember it from little people eyes? And like, I was a kid, so I thought it was huge.
That's on big bikes, too. I remember D34 had the craziest tracks.
Yeah, because Walden was very technical. Like Walden had a straight up Supercross set of whoops. It felt like before the finish line, there was jumps everywhere.
Yep.
Like after you hit the finish line, you go right, left, and there was like a dragon's back thing.
Yeah, dude, I ended up in the pond.
Remember that? And then you go left, and there was like a fun little step up, and then a double.
Yep.
That was pretty big.
Then
and
up
there
the
was
hill. There
was some big doubles.
Yeah.
Big doubles and step downs in that back section where it was so rocky, and there was always the freaking guys that would water with the hoses way too much.
Oh my gosh, dude.
And then before the finish line, you go right, like 2 turns before the finish line, you go right, and there was the double right out of that turn that was basically impossible.
And then the left before the left berm
straight into the left. So you had Walden.
Yep.
You had Ace and Diamondback, which both were gnarly from what I remember.
Big hits. I think they even went to Area 51 a couple times.
I remember Diamondback. I mean, all of that's probably, honestly, I always put it on Mototown and Winchester Supercross as to why I developed Supercross skill. but it's definitely also District 34 back in the day,
Yeah.
because those tracks,
Insane.
people comment below if anybody's racing District 34 in like the late 90s, early 2000s. Was it as technical and scary as I remember it being?
And then comment how many bones you broke.
Man, I miss some of those plays. I miss Rocky Hill is what I really miss.
So I forgot who posted on Facebook, but somebody posted the videos of it like flattened now and like all the memories. I'm like, dude, that's the first place I met you. I think when we were little, we first met at Rocky Hill.
Our dads parked each other's conversion vans next to each other.
Exactly. I think they might have knew each other, but I remember my dad. I don't remember meeting you, but I think my dad told me this is where you met AJ for the first. We were too little. I have no idea, but like think about like all the friendships and all the skills and all the different iterations of the track, and you'd show up and you'd like, oh, all your buddies are there, and oh man, it was just such a special place. Tracks are really like tracks that are staples of like that region's like moto community. They really like play a big part in people's lives.
Oh, I mean, it was the most impressionable time of my life probably. And I was,
yeah.
How far did you live from there? 20 minutes?
20? Yeah, because I'd hop on 91. It was literally 20 minutes, 15, 20 minutes for me.
Yeah, and it was about 15 minutes from my house. It was just like, it was there at the perfect time, exactly when I needed it. And so was Mototown. I've talked about that before, but
yeah,
I had Mototown exactly when I needed it.
Yep.
Like right at the ages where I was already losing so much ground to the people that were going to training facilities and not riding, and I wasn't riding during the winter.
Yeah. And
then from like ages, 11, 12, 13, I was able to ride during the winter. Although my hands, you couldn't feel your hands because it was so freaking cold. But at least I was riding.
We had a good time.
At least I was riding.
That's the place where I followed you and broke my wrist because you're a terrible friend.
Shout out.
That was nice.
I remember, speaking of just random stories that we're thinking of, I remember, again, I wish there was videos. I remember being so fast at Mototown on a Super Mini that one of the fastest people that would go there, I think, was Josh Clark on like a 250F. Or he was like A-class 250F guy. And
he used to do NESC, right?
No, he still does. He's still very fast.
Oh, okay. Cool.
And I just remember being faster than him when I was on my Super Mini. Like, it didn't matter who went there. I'm pretty sure Bobby Canary went there one time too, and I was on a Super Mini. And or maybe I was on a big bike then.
Is that when they put the like full scale whoops in?
What?
When Canary was there, is that when they put like the actual like full size Supercross whoops in for like that week or two?
No, I missed that because I was so good in those. No, that was when they made the track a rocky, sandy outdoor track, and it was it was horrible. That was when I remember Canary going there.
Gotcha. Okay.
But I just had those tracks on lock, like Rocky Hill. I was so fast at Rocky Hill as I should have been.
I think it was like there was no 85 rider that could probably stay with you. Haysha was insanely good there too.
Yep.
Yeah, I think.
Yeah, but still, like not even close to. There was, I remember Dakota showed up there one time, and I was so much faster than him there that he goes, AJ, and this holds true to Jimmy on some tracks. This holds true to like Tyler Stepic at Tomahawk. Yeah. Everybody kind of has their home track, and Jimmy goes, AJ, if they hold a national here, you're gonna win the national. It's like you just have every inch of the place so dialed in.
You know whose name I thought about the other day? Of like, I thought this was the fastest 85 rider I've ever seen, Mike Pacone. And and dude, you could not tell me there was a faster Suzuki rider out there. This kid was so insanely fast. Like, and then you like meet Haysha or whatever, and I'm like, gee, okay, well, forget it, never mind, dude. Like, it just so many fast kids, man.
We had a fast era, and the fastest era I feel like almost was like a year or two or maybe 3 above me too. So you had like Haysha was maybe 1 or 2 years older than me.
Yeah.
Satilli.
Oh, Fisk.
So Mike Satilli, obviously wicked fast.
Yeah. Then you had Matt Fisk.
Did you just name another one?
Fisk. He was fast.
Oh yeah, Fisk.
Yep.
So I remember having my best battles with Matt Fisk at Winchester Supercross, actually. Drew Torrance, remember Drew?
Yeah, he was Team Green too, wasn't he?
Drew was wicked fast. I
Yeah.
want to keep thinking of names here. And they're going to be varying ages. Some of these guys are a little bit older than me.
Who
Mike
else?
Bacone, obviously, wicked fast. Jacob Morrison.
Jimmy.
Jimmy D, obviously.
who
Jimmy
else?
D's basically one of the fastest from New England ever.
Yeah.
You could safely put him in that list.
Who else was
Chris
on
Canning
minis?
came, but Chris Canning,
Chris was
I feel like
fast.
didn't really start getting faster until deeper into like super mini days, maybe like when we were just getting onto big bikes.
Yeah,
Chris
he's a
Canning
beast.
wasn't a factor at the beginning.
He was a super beast. Chris Corey on any random day. I used to hate his CR85, dude. His super mini was so fast. I used to work so hard on my full size bike just to stay with him. And I still talk to him like every couple of days, by the way.
Oh, you know who is fast randomly?
Who's that?
Dimitri Angelo. And I don't know how I just thought of that name. Do you know who that is?
Honda kid, right?
I think. Yeah, I think he wrote. I think he wrote a Honda, and I feel like he was like
419
maybe he
or
was
4
only-
something.
what?
419 or something is his number.
Yeah, yeah,
something
wow,
like
good
that.
memory.
Yeah, on Honda. Yeah.
Yeah, I think so. And there was a few races where he was either right there up with me or beat me, and I just couldn't even process it in my mind as how it happened.
Yeah.
But there was a lot of people in NEMA, NESC, whatever district I was racing that were
Yeah.
sneaky fast like that too.
Oh, for sure.
There was
You know,
just a
it's-
lot of fast guys.
Dude, that Dimitri kid blew my doors off at Southwick. I remember like he came down the straightaway. I was like, there has to be a turbo in that motor. There's no way. Just right by, dude.
Well, again, this might not have been him, but was he the one that had questionable bikes? As far as
I
like
don't
they seemed
think-
too fast. There was
I don't
somebody
think
that always
so.
had a bike where it was like this
I
guy's
feel
definitely
like
cheating.
Chris Corey's bike was suspiciously fast because I remember he raced Moto Town on his Super Mini, and I was like, he should not be able to keep up with John Dowd. I'm like, there's no way that you should be whole shotting John Dowd, dude. But like, I think his bikes were they were within where they
my
should have
God.
been. But yeah, there's a lot of fast kids that we grew up with that just beat the crap out of me, dude. I hadn't seen a chance. Yeah, but just a lot of fast kids. I remember the first time I saw Barsha, he showed up for like a 85 or super mini. This was after his like 05 or 04 Loretta's title. And after seeing him ride, I was like, why am I doing this sport? Like, why am I doing this, dude? I should just go home, dude. Is hula hooping a sport? I'm good at that. Can we hop into that one? Rollerblading, maybe? Because it was just
Somebody in the app
not fair.
asked that question or said that statement the other day, and they're like, dude, does watching really fast people motivate you or does it demotivate you? I'm like, well, I can definitely relate to the fact when I've seen some people sometimes be so good at what they do that it discourages you completely.
Yeah. Yep.
And Dave Drakes, you've had one or two of those moments growing up in the
Yeah.
motocross.
Thanks to you. You know when I've had the worst of those feelings was I forget the year, 250B mod on my bone stock Cowie at South. I think it was an area qualifier, and just I'm pretty sure that's when I think we had Barsha at ours and maybe Roxon. I'm thinking it was Roxon. Please correct me if I'm wrong. But we had like 2 or 3 ringers that came all the way up there for reasons I have no idea. And I remember just sitting there and I was like, oh God damn it. Like, I have that guy on my wall. I'm not going to do it at all, man. It's like, this is going to be horrible. But I remember my bike was bone stock, but I had to do that class because I had the Pro Circuit water pump because I had smashed mine. I was like, dude, I've got 80 hours on this bike. I'm not going to do well. It was bad. Don't look at my results, people. Please don't look at my results.
Bone stock.
Bone stock.
Okay, couple more podcast questions. Are you cool with that, Dave?
Yeah, let's go.
Trevor Howell from Bloemfontein, South Africa. Definitely just said that wrong, but South Africa, shout out.
Shout out.
A lot of different people from different countries in the app, by the way.
Love it.
I feel like there's more than a handful of people from South Africa. He goes, I'm planning to ride some different tracks overseas. By overseas, he means the US of A.
Okay.
And looking for rougher conditions for practice. Should I go to Florida or California? That's a good question. What would you say, Dave?
I'd say as a whole, Florida, a lot of sandier, loamy tracks that break down very quickly. Croom, Bithlow, Pax, you name it. There's a lot. If you go to California, it's a different kind of rough. You get a lot of the harder packed blue groove, unless you go someplace like Glen Helen, like a Thursday night ride, and you're gonna find some really gnarly conditions. So as a whole, I would say Florida, because you could go to a bunch of different tracks within, so far, and they're all going to be really rough and have that same sort of build up and consistency. But Cali, doing a Cali moto run is kind of iconic. Like, I think every person should do that at least once. Just go ride, what is it? Glen, Kahia Creek. That's one that I feel like everybody should try out.
Fox Raceway.
Fox Raceway. Yeah, there's some good ones out there that are just iconic to ride, but I'd have to say Florida though.
My first thought went to Florida too, just because when he referenced rough tracks, there's so many tracks that get super, super rough in Florida. And I picture South Africa being like bone dry, hard packed, blue groove, rocky type of situation. I'm making that up. Maybe it's sand. I have no idea. But I would probably, if I were going to the US, want to ride something that's a little different than that. If you're going to California, you're getting totally different style of tracks. Ezra Tate commented on it, and he said, come to Cali in late April, early May. Everyone preps the tracks for people doing national prep. And it's probably good moisture.
Yeah.
That time of year there too. Yeah, honestly, you really can't go wrong. I think doing both is worth doing at some point.
For sure.
In your life. Florida has so many track options, and so does California. You're probably going to spend a lot more money doing the California one because the open practice days are ungodly expensive. But that's tough.
Yeah, I want to find out what
Florida.
I want to find out what he does. Yeah, let us know what you end up doing because that'd be awesome.
Yeah, Trevor, good question.
Cool.
Definitely. Yeah, let us know. Okay, I've got two more. Cameron Bradshaw says, how many books do you read per month? Dave Drakes, how many books do you read in a month?
I'm low, dude. Because of the baby's so young right now and running back and forth to work, it's busy time for work. Dude, I'm like one every month and a half, 2 months, audiobook. Like, I can't even find the time to sit down, especially when it's Supercross time and the program's blasting and we're in full sprint with TMA, the whole deal. It's a lot. So I don't get nearly as much, and I don't get a chance to read as many personal growth books as I'd like to. A lot of times I'm like, man, I gotta turn my brain off. We're listening to Harry Potter for the 14th time. But not nearly as much as I should. There was a stint like end of college, like kind of like I took like a year off from riding because I just had to get things together, which is so busy and travel, all that stuff. That I went through, man, I was buzzing through books, man. You name it, I was reading it.
There's seasons of it for sure, because when Millie was first born, I was definitely anxious about the fact that I didn't even if I picked up the book, I would read like 2 sentences, and then Millie would wake up or start crying so then I gave up on it completely for at least while I was at the house. So then my only time to read would be when I was on the airplane traveling, and I would, depending on how long the flight was, I'd be able to cover a lot of ground. Right now, I'm in a swing where I've been getting quite a bit in, which is awesome. So I'd say the books I read are probably normally 2 to 400 pages. So they're not like super short books, but they're not crazy long. I'm reading one a week and maybe one more than that. So I'd say 5 a month. So nothing stupid crazy, but I'd say it's quite a bit. And when you start reading that, and it's all self-development, it's all like self-mastery books. When you start reading that frequently, I just feel like you quickly become a different person and level up.
For sure.
You just learn so much so quickly, and you start to retain and assimilate so much of the information.
Yes.
If I were to watch back to video of me speaking 2 years ago, I probably spoke quite differently, and I didn't have the right words half the time. I couldn't process a thought because I didn't have the vocabulary to do so. Reading is so important, even just for that, to articulate some of the things that you're trying to just get off of your mind.
Yeah.
It's frustrating when you can't.
Yeah, definitely.
You could be thinking in your head, and it's like you got this beautiful thought, and then when you go to say it,
what's the word?
you can't even formulate anything that's even remotely close to a sentence that makes sense. And as you read, you can kind of like, still language is a really tricky thing because I feel like it still doesn't do what you need to accomplish, but you can get close sometimes.
What's the one book that's influenced you the most?
Oh,
I think you know what mine. I think you know what mine is, but I want to hear what yours is.
the book that's in. Oh, I mean that.
Or the most. It could be the most impact. Whichever one you think.
I think I would have to say Think and Grow Rich, because that was the first one that clicked for me, and it's also the one that I've probably reread the most. I want to say I've reread that 10 plus times, and I've gone back to it at different stages of my growth and development, and it still holds true each time. But there's so many I could put on that list. By the way, guys, finding books that are right to read can be difficult. If you hear somebody recommend a book, order it and read it. Don't make an excuse as I'll order it later. Pause this podcast right now if you have not read Think and Grow Rich, and go and read, or go on Amazon and freaking order the book now. And I'll talk to you guys in 2 seconds when you get back from that. Oh, hi. Okay, cool. Hopefully it shows up quick. Amazon shipping is quick. Start the book when you get it in 2 days. Read it. I have cultivated a list of books in the mastermind in the app, which can help save people some time because of the hundreds and hundreds of books that I've read over the last 4 or 5 years. There's probably 20 or 30 or 40 in this list. So I've really, picked the absolute best ones that just didn't have a bunch of fluff in there. So if you guys want a specific list, go in the mastermind. Dave, what is yours?
Mine, I told you about it years ago about I was like, wow, this is profound. How to Win Friends and Influence People by Dale Carnegie. That one.
Yep.
It opened my eyes to just how much you can make stuff happen for yourself just by the way that you interact with people. It blew my mind. And that goes for dating, that goes for business, that goes for friendships, which lead to this, which lead to that. It probably helped me influence a lot of the collective and what we want to accomplish, what we want to achieve, and giving the confidence for that or whatever. But that one really hit me. That one is paramount, I feel like, for any person in their early adult life. That is going to be gold.
It's a must read, without question. It is a must read. It's on my list. That actually, How to Win Friends and Influence People is the second book that I read after Think and Grow Rich. So that one's up there. It's up there in my top 10.
Yeah,
without question.
Yep.
That one is really, really important. I think that question will kind of segue nicely into this next one. So we got a question from Fat Header. Shout out Fat Header.
Shout out Fat Header.
From Great Falls, Montana. Shout out Montana. Podcast question. How do you know when it's okay to walk away from something? Example, markers of fulfillment, no regrets, not selling yourself short, etc. Or could it be considered as part of the process? Could they be separate? Markers of fulfillment, no regrets, not selling yourself short on something. So how do you know when it's okay to walk away from something? That's an interesting one.
Yeah, I like that question.
That's a really interesting one because a lot of what I read is sort of ancient Eastern philosophy / samurai / a lot of not forcing. A lot of it is like Wu Wei, basically is the art of, not forcing something. But then at what point are you just not trying hard enough? If you live that mentality too much, are you just walking away from things that you should be doing? Yeah. How do you know when it's okay to walk away from something? How would you answer that?
I would say when something no longer serves you or
Mm,
is taking from you. So I always liken it to
I was gonna say the
um
same exact thing.
yeah, like my time at you know uh designing bikes, right? For big OEM manufacturer. There was a point where I was like, dude, this is so cool. I'm meeting so many cool people. I'm getting paid to rip prototype bikes around tracks and ride with the most amazing people over the world for, a bunch of money. Dude, it was great. But there came a time when I felt like that was taking away from not only my happiness, but my fulfillment in other areas where it was taking away from interpersonal relationships or was taken away from the time that I wanted to put into something for myself. And it no longer was, I was seeing the benefit and seeing um the the positives from this. It was now transition to, man, I'm really not looking forward to going into the office, or I'm not really looking forward to representing this one brand, or man, I wish I could put the time into something else. And it felt like I do almost feel like, man, I really don't belong here. Like I feel like my spirit's calling me to do something else, or people call it God talking to you. Um, I just, you feel like a pull, like, man, this is taking away from my happiness, my fulfillment, my excitement. Um, and I think that's a clear sign. I think I even called you after that point, Adrian. I was like, hey, so I'm moving. It's like I'm getting out of here, man. But I think, and that could be for anything, man. That's why some people switch teams. You say, oh my gosh, why'd that guy leave KTM? Why'd that one guy leave Cowie? Who would leave Honda? And it's like, man, when you feel that feeling of like, this is no longer serving me, it is pulling away from me, it is taking from me, then like, and it's not like I'm having to help people, like that's completely different, but it's hindering me from what I feel my purpose is in that time of my life. Then I think that's when it's time to pack it up.
Yep. Well said. Well said. And I think it's difficult for people to do that because it's easy to confuse that with like giving up on something,
Yeah, yeah.
right?
And there's certain things that you like, you have your
Right.
morals and your pillars where like, hey, I'm in this forever. Dad, being a good partner, the vows you made for that, the sport you're dedicated to, your family, helping people, like stuff like that. You have your pillars where like, yeah, I'm in it for the long haul. Like, no matter what happens, you can never give up at them. But like there's some things out there, a lot of things out there where you're like, you know what? I think this is a sign that it's on to the next thing.
Yep. Like doing the dishes for me is one.
Oh, dude, I hate dishes. I'd rather do any other thing besides dishes, dude.
Laundry
I'll
for sure.
laundry. I'll clean bathrooms, dude. I'll scrub toilets. I'll rearrange anything, dude. Dishes are just not my thing, man.
Dishes actually, ironically, are the only thing that I do in the house or around the house.
Really? Oh, dude,
Yeah.
I do all of it, man. I am Susie Homemaker, man. Mary does not have to lift a thing, dude. I will paint, decorate. Dude, these are a few times where like I'll set up something and be like, Allie, how does this look? She gets a thumbs up, then we're moving on. Like that's it, dude.
No
I'll do
way.
I'll do I'll do it all, 100%.
Wow, that's funny. No, I get into. I mean, I part of me definitely likes, especially like the design of stuff. I want
Yeah,
stuff to feel a certain way.
for sure. Yeah,
I'm particular about that, but yeah, certainly don't have the patience to try to be the one that's actually designing it. No way.
yeah, yeah.
But yeah, I'm the dish guy for sure.
Oh, the
I'm the
dish.
dish guy. I use it as like little meditation time because it's my time to just kind of like be in it with the dishes. No
What are
distractions.
what are some other things that you do around the house, or maybe not around the house, that like that's your meditation time? Not books, but like this is my time to turn my brain off, relax, and it's like this is my recharge moment.
The obvious one is the yard walk or run that I do with Bear, and I do it
Mhm.
every day, usually 2 to 3 times a day. Um, but I at least do it every day. It's usually the first thing I do when I wake up. So we
Mhm.
have 14 acres in the backyard, and I run the perimeter of it with Bear.
Mhm.
Sometimes I walk it,
Mhm.
but I usually will run to one of the corners and then stop and stare up at the sun and do some breathing. Usually probably stand there for maybe not long, three minutes, 4 minutes, run to the next corner. And while I'm running even, I'm doing like a quadruple inhale, quadruple exhale. So I'm really timing my breath. And so I'm not getting winded, but it's like I feel like I'm just really oxygenating. Like I just feel good by the time I get to that next corner. Then I stop there at the sun and I take a couple of really, really long, slow inhales and exhales. That's like a very intentional meditation, no question. And there's something about the jog in between that's very helpful. It makes it so that when you get to your stopping point, and especially when your eyes closed looking up towards the sun, and you relax for those next couple of minutes after you just jogged for not long, maybe a couple minutes, but it's just enough to get the heart rate up. So then when you sit there and close your eyes, you relax like deeper. It's almost like there's meditations where you can kind of tense really tightly certain muscle groups. Like even as you're just sitting here listening to this, do a fist and just tighten your arms as tight as you can get them for 4 or 5 seconds and then let go. And you can get them to relax more than they were before. And you can do that with each muscle group. And that's like a way to meditate. The jogging does that for me. So let's see, backyard doing that. Dishes is definitely one. When I vacuum, we have a Dyson that has the laser off the front.
Oh, yeah.
You ever seen that?
Yep.
So it's very, very not rewarding. What's the word I'm looking for? Satisfying to vacuum with the lights off, with the laser off the front of this Dyson, because you can see absolutely everything. So just getting in the zone, doing a little vacuuming. And just as I say, I don't do anything else in the house. I love that vacuum. If you don't like vacuuming, buy that vacuum and you'll vacuum 5 times a day.
Yep. Just seeing all the stuff that's on the floor that you can't see with your naked eye. Yeah.
Oh, it's great.
Yeah.
And then our shower's been broken for like the last 7 months. And so I don't take showers in this house anymore, although we have a couple other bathrooms. Don't use them. We just take baths. So salt. What salt do you pour in?
Epsom salt with magnesium.
Epsom salt in the bath every night. And if I get lucky, a lot of times, we're taking a bath with Millie and it's a bit chaotic, but usually Allie will then go to try to put Millie to sleep. And I'll hang back even if it's just for 5 or 10 minutes, meditation in the bath, killer. And that's right before bed. What else? If people were to see my life, I feel like it would appear very boring. Like real boring. Because there's not, from the exterior, there's not a whole lot of exciting things going on necessarily. At least when I'm in the regular day-to-day at home. But I'm using that time, I think, really wisely to be hyper present, and then regular check-ins of meditation throughout the day. If you're meditating 4 or 5 times a day, I think you're on the right track.
Yeah.
Like you never get derailed that much. You meditate and you kind of get back in alignment. You're good. If things start to get squirrely, well, I'm already catching it with the next meditation, right?
Yeah, for sure.
Are there anything that pops out in your head as things that you do?
I think working on motors, man. That just cracking open a case and like putting a new crank in something, or like working on the bike or doing something. That is just some of the, like, I put the TV on, just some blah 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 race from 20 years ago, or
such a mechanic thing to do.
Some sort of comedy series or something, dude. A good, like, congratulations or Bald Brothers podcast, something, and just, dude, work on something. It's just, it is so relaxing. Cooking, I don't mind cooking. Like that's kind of nice and therapeutic. Doing spreadsheets, to me, like just compiling data.
Doing spreadsheets,
dude. Those are relaxing. Used to be the row machine, but now it's like, oh god, I don't want to row. Now it hurts my back. But yeah, just normal stuff, like or nerdy stuff, whatever, however you want to word it. But yeah.
Working on a bike one is good for sure. I mean, not for me. That's my nightmare, but for you.
Yeah, good for you.
Let's see.
That's
I'm
funny.
going to see if there's any more questions in here. And then there was just one final thing that I wanted to do. I don't know if we're going to be able to do it on this podcast or not.
Oh, Jackson had something he wanted me to ask you.
Oh, what?
He wanted you to talk about, you know what I'm getting at.
I think
for those of you that don't know, AJ had a really good year in 20, is it 14 or 15?
Oh no, this was long before that. This was probably
sorry before that.
This is probably 08, 09.
Okay, gotcha. So that was a stint where you posted, I think you posted a video of it in the app. AJ used to be an amateur phenom at one point, believe it or not. Famous guy. And he had the opportunity to have a conversation with one of the most iconic people in our industry, Mr. Mitch Payton, to talk about a possible ride. And a lot of people do not know this, that AJ was on a short list for a pro circuit ride for a pretty cool debut. Quickly got derailed. And I want you to go through that story because we talked about it briefly. Like we mentioned it. And I think Jackson and then a bunch of other people were like, dude, no, I want to hear that. Like, tell me the story. I never thought of it, but like, talk about that happening, dude. Cause I remember when you first told me about it, I was like, oh my gosh, dude, that sounds so like how I expect it to go. So
yes, right. Exactly. So, okay.
Yep.
There were two scenarios actually. So one was being on the short list for PC as a fill-in rider in Supercross, and they ended up going with Tyler Bowers, which in hindsight definitely made sense. He ended up winning Vegas that year.
Smart move.
And got I think a podium. Like he was killing it, but that definitely could have been I got fourth. I had a couple good runs. Dean Wilson got hurt. Either did his shoulder or his knee. This was in 2013. And there was like rumor, I feel like I heard from many credible sources that there was potential that I was going to be getting a phone call, and then they ended up going with Bowers. He was already Monster Energy for Arena Cross. That made a lot of sense. But the one that you're talking about, it had to have been 08 or 09.
Mm-hmm.
I just moved up to the big bikes. Maybe it was my first or second year on big bikes.
Yep.
And I actually had a pretty darn strong year because the last maybe year I was on Super Minis. Yes, I was very fast on a Super Mini, but I maybe turned more into like a fourth or fifth place guy as opposed to somebody that was winning titles.
Big bikes, we almost got a title that year, first year on big bikes at Loretta's. I think you were second behind, oh my gosh.
Barsha in one of them, or maybe, no, Barsha got third in the one I got second in. Who the heck? Travis Baker?
No,
but I don't. So that, and that was Loretta's 08. So I showed up there first year on a big bike with not much expectation. Cause like I said, my last couple years in Super Mini, maybe I was fast, but I was like fourth, fifth, sixth place. I feel at Loretta's, at Mini-O's, at the Nationals. So that's still a very fast rider, but I don't think I remember being a title contender. Where on 50s and 60s, I'm pretty sure on 50s, I definitely was. I was like the guy on 50s. On 60s, maybe I won a few titles, but not many. And then it was sort of like getting worse. When I got on big bikes, I started winning some titles again, and I was top three. So Loretta's 08, I got second overall in one class. I got third overall in the other class. And if you go back and look at the results, it was 250B stock and mod. Maybe in the video, editor's note, you could pull up the results sheet from these. A lot of names that would look very familiar on there. Roxon was in my class.
Tomac.
Barsha was in my class. Dean Wilson was in my class.
Anderson
probably was in there. I mean, it basically the top. Malcolm Stewart probably was in there. It was the top 10 to 15 of 450 main event, really. Yeah. We're all somewhere in that. And I got second and third. Going into it, like, happy I was disqualified, you know?
Yeah.
And then I won a title at at Mini-O's that year. I think I won one at like Lake Whitney or one of the Texas rounds. And so then at Mini-O's, this was when they had Extreme Team Green. Remember that? When Bobby Hewitt was the team manager of Extreme Team Green.
I think they had just switched from like Canada to Extreme or something.
Yes. Yeah. And it was in the era of like Malcolm Stewart got on it. At one point, Dean Wilson was probably
I think Lemoyne was on there too, wasn't he? For like a little
Lemoyne,
bit,
maybe. Yeah, Lemoyne. Yeah, Lemoyne was one of my heroes when I was little because he was number 30 on a Cowie too. I just thought it was so cool.
Yeah, a little faster, but yeah, we won't talk about that one.
And we had an interview. We got an interview at Minio's where it it had all but boiled down to, I think they had just hired Malcolm Stewart, and now it was going to be between, I could have the story a little wrong, but this is how I remember it. It was going to be down between me and Bogle. So me and Justin Bogle to get this last spot. And me and Bogle, up until this point, were extremely, basically tit for tat. Like, we were very, very comparable. If anything, I was maybe arguably a bit better at the time from what I remember.
Bogle was very good, but I don't think he had quite as much consistency, I think is what it came down to. I think you showed up
once he got this ride, he then went to the next level.
He did for sure. But I'm saying up to that point, I think that's what the deciding factor was for like on your part, like your benefit was, oh, he's a bit more consistent. We can see like it's in consistent top threes, where I think Bogle had like one or two where he wasn't as consistent or something.
Yeah, I can't remember. I just remember feeling like I had a really good shot at getting this ride. And it was Extreme Team Green, which was like a big deal. Like
the biggest deal back then.
The biggest deal.
The biggest deal. You didn't really have any other. RM Army was kind of going by the wayside. Yamahas, no one was looking at Yamahas to go pro on. Like they weren't really, that prominent. KTM wasn't the KTM that we know now. Like this was the team to be on.
It was. Yeah, so it's basically the equivalent now to getting a star ride as when you're an amateur.
Exactly.
Right. We get an interview. We get called to come over to the semi and sit down with Bobby Hewitt for an interview. And Tony Cat's there because we got to bring Tony Cat. Now, this could definitely be an exaggeration. For some reason...
It's probably not, though.
For some reason... I remember him sitting down for the interview with his shirt off.
Oh, I was just gonna say, nips out, dude.
Now, he's got his nipples pierced, for sure. Or nipple.
Barbells. But huge
barbells.
Huge silver barbells, yeah.
Gold earrings. Now, he might have had a shirt on, but for some reason, my memory is telling me that my dad sat down for this interview and didn't have a shirt on. And... there was something that he said to Bobby Hewitt instantly that was very off-putting. And I don't remember details, but I just remember feeling embarrassed about something.
Yeah.
And of course, and that I think that sealed my fate. I mean, it had to have, right?
Did you just sit there going, oh my God, I wish I would have had like somebody just sub in as my dad or something for 2 seconds. Just like, get Big James, be like, yeah, this is my dad. Where let's talk numbers.
So history is, and the rest is history. Didn't get the ride. And Bogle ended up going one direction. I ended up going another. That was it was amazing how like people would have those lift-off moments, and that's all it takes for somebody. Because up until that point, like I said, from my memory, Bogle and I were very comparable. And then it was as soon as he got the Extreme Team Green ride, he went to the next level, and I didn't.
That's insane. I wonder, we got to get Tony on that to ask him like if he remembers that scenario and just like see what he thinks he said. I guarantee you he thinks he was being like funny or polite, and it just came off as super off-putting.
I can't even imagine. And I don't really remember. It was such a long time ago. Basically, that's just me making up a story. But I do know that happened, that we sat down for an interview, and clearly it didn't go anywhere. So, yeah, shout out. But
I'd love to get Tony Cat out to like a class or two, or like a couple days for summer camp, just to like have people hear the stories that he has and like his approach to like why he was so prominent in like the training world, like why he felt like he had to go to you guys had to go to every single like trainer, and like, which is phenomenal, but like why not many parents thought like that back then. I'd love to pick his brain about that. Being a parent of a young kid who's doing all of these insane things on a dirt bike, like what he thought, what his plans were for you, and like what he thought you guys would be doing, and if he was ever nervous for you racing, which I'm guessing yes, insanely nervous. you know, if there were races that he was like, oh man, he blew me away with how great he was. I would love to hear that stuff from him.
Me too, because I don't know any of it.
Yeah, they'll never tell us, dude. Tony will never tell me when you know all this stuff. He'd tell you. He would never tell me. You know.
Right.
So,
no, I don't know any of the answers to anything that you just said. And I'm very, very curious. I do know, like, because other people would tell me. I think my dad's admitted it before, and you would have never guessed when I was little. But when I turned pro, he was so nervous he wouldn't watch the race. Like if he went to the Supercross race, which he went to very few, he'd go to the ones that would come local. He would pace he would leave the stadium basically and just pace while my race was going out there because he was that nervous. And I don't know if he was always that way. Maybe that fear and that anxiety is part of what made him be mean. A lot of the times is because he was just so afraid of me getting hurt. I bet you that's definitely part of it.
Yeah. Yep. I could definitely see. I know like for some instances, once I got decent in B class, that my dad switched. I think like he got also Tony. So if you hear us talk about Tony, it could either be my dad or his dad. Really, they're the same person, just different spots on the Sherwin-Williams color chart. Same hoop earrings, same always shirtless. But I think my dad got like really. I think mean's a hard word, but like I think once the speeds went up and the competitiveness went up. And now you're not racing with little kids. Now you're racing with grown ass men. Now you're in big bikes. Now you're racing open B class, which is the guy could be 14, he could be 25 with a whole wife, you know. So all that stuff. I think that's when the switch kind of flipped, and he was like, dude, like tough, really tough. But I think because he was so nervous about like, oh my gosh, my kids, you know, doing these insane jumps, and the bikes are so much faster. They weigh more than the kid does, and all these guys are so much more experienced, and all, you know, I think a lot of that probably played in for a lot of parents. I'm sure a lot of parents go through that, you know? So
am I able to share my screen with you?
Yeah. If you, trying to talk technical stuff with you is going to be a nightmare.
Cool.
Yeah. Do you see it?
So I want to, because on the topic of kind of going back into these memories a little bit, I think it might be an appropriate time to put this video that I sent to the group chat the other day, which is in here somewhere. Let me know if you see it before I do. What the heck? I sent it recently, right? The Mini O's video?
Yeah, that was pretty recent.
There it is. Okay, so are you able to see this?
Yeah.
Are you able to hear it if I turn volume on?
Yeah, you're so
douchey. Are you?
I can hear it. You're so
You can.
douchey.
Oh man. Okay. Oh. All right, hang on. All right, this is going to be good. So you can see it. Ethan's got the recording, or Jackson, whoever freaking edits these things. Shout out Jackson. Okay.
Shout out Jackson.
So you can hear and see this. And I want to break this down a little bit with you, because you know me from this era and from before this era better than anybody, really. So I'll play it one time through without any interruptions and enjoy. So this is 2008 Mini O's.
Mini O's.
I believe.
What's up? I'm Major Captain Zero, 15 years old, from Portland, Connecticut. My confidence is really good coming into Mini O's. I'm expecting hopefully some podiums, maybe a couple wins. I know Tomac's on a big bike now, but I was just battling with him last moto, and he's not any faster than me, so it's all good.
Talk about being unembarrassable. Like, most people would never want to show that interview ever again.
Never.
But dude, can we,
29th gate pick, so that was sweet. Way outside, and actually got a third place hole shot. And was right behind Tomac, passed him, and we were battling the whole race, and I ended up with the third. Got really tired, but it was a great moto.
This is back when you used to actually scrub too.
Oh, just scrubbing everything.
Just scrubbing everything. I miss these days.
And gives me more confidence. Even though I can win, I can definitely win.
Oh my God, worst interviewer of all time. But look at me wheeling past Tomac in the whoops.
That was sick. That was actually sick. But like, look at the. I almost feel like you had a confidence back then in you that like you were charging sections that a lot of people got fumbled up on. That old school track back then, it was a different mini O's than they race now. It was a much different setup, but oh my gosh, dude. Just I love that Jackson was like, dude's just talking right through his teeth. Not even gonna try to, I like how you're just like sitting back, just so douchey. Just
so let's talk about a few things here. First of all,
okay.
I want to say that was probably my first ever interview. Definitely my first ever interview with like Verb Moto or at an amateur national, from what I can remember.
For
right.
sure.
So like that opening part was them telling me what to say. I remember that. I actually remember that specifically. So speaking of confidence, I was not confident for that interview. That's for sure. But I was,
oh my gosh,
I was confident on the track. I think that actually 2008 was probably the last year before my confidence started to go the opposite direction. There was something about that year where I think the confidence stemmed a bit from like ignorance more than anything, but I had like that ignorant confidence of just like, I could do it.
Yeah.
Of course I can do it.
Is this the same year of the iconic Mini-O's outdoor track scrub up the table?
Yeah.
Same year?
I think so.
Think about in the last like 7-8 years, I've been on you like, AJ, you have to stay lower. You have to scrub these sections. And it's a stark contrast to this version of AJ back in 08, 09, when you scrubbed everything. You scrubbed things you probably didn't have to.
No, totally. I mean, I was, in that year, specifically that year, I was the guy where if I was on the track, a camera better be following me everywhere because I was scrubbing absolutely everything. And at the time, I was probably one of, if not like the best at doing it, because it was my main.
I don't know anybody that I think Malcolm had a good one. Maybe it was the year after he got really good at it. Maybe it wasn't until he got on the Yamaha. Remember you rode Yamahas for a little while?
Yeah. Barsha scrubbed and whipped like crazy too.
Yeah, but it's Barsha. Yeah.
Yep. But
I can't think of anyone in your class that was scrubbing as much as you were.
Bogle was starting to have good style then for sure too. But I remember in that year, I was like when I was bouncing between MTF and GPF, like 08, 09, whenever that was. Chad Charbonneau was doing whips at MTF.
Throwback name, dude.
And I remember Chad Charbonneau was doing whips like I had never seen anybody do a whip before. It was so good. And it was like...
He had a track at his house up north, didn't he?
In New Hampshire that I think like Factory Connection used to test that, right?
But wasn't it like insane, like just 130-foot doubles out of corners and something super crazy?
Probably, because he was a jumper and a whipper. Like that dude could whip like I had never seen in person. And so I just studied that and I started to learn how to whip that way. And I got to a point where I was like, I thought I was, at that time in 08, 09, I thought I could do a better whip than anybody in the world. You know? And there was pictures of me. I remember Barsha was taking pictures on my iPhone of me at GPF doing a whip over this step up along like where the cabins were. And it was a little bit, I mean, it was the year or very close to the year that Stewart had this the grainiest iPhone, or not iPhone, it was before iPhones, the grainiest cell phone footage of all time whip.
Oh,
remember that?
The MySpace whip.
The biggest whip, the coolest, craziest, most mind-blowing whip clip I've ever seen.
I will say at the time, because
at the time,
Patrick Evans now, him, Hanny, they're going crazy. But at the time, dude, he went backwards for like a stint, and we had never seen anybody get the bike a little backwards.
Yep.
And that was the biggest whip I think we'd ever seen, and probably for like the next 10 years.
Yeah, it was shocking.
Yeah.
It was so ahead of its time. That clip
But
was
yeah,
editors
recorded
know,
on a
bringing
freaking
these up.
toaster,
I mean,
dude.
props
It
to
was,
you.
yeah, it was a horrible grainy video.
Yeah, and because
But
he flew by the camera and it like was a
Yep.
dust cloud too at the same time. So I remember
And
watching
just,
that video
oh,
over and
biggest
over.
whip.
And by the time he's in his whip, he's a mile away from the camera.
yeah,
But
yep.
it was still mind blowing. And so that was what I was aspiring to do, is like, how can I get completely perfectly upside down and completely perfectly underneath the bike, like straight up perfectly up
Yeah.
underneath the bike. And there was a couple of pictures. I don't know, no videos have surfaced of this somehow, but pictures perfectly of me. I think like Rensland was there too. And I was jumping over Luke and Cody Rensland's head. I forget who else was there. So I have some witnesses.
They were good riders too. They were really good.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's nice.
And so, yeah, I had this way about me, and watching that video, by the way, Dave, makes me totally understand and realize why I had a following of people that hated me. Totally makes sense now. Totally makes sense now.
I could put 2 and 2 together. Yeah.
But it came from this weird, you know what it was? Poor AJ was just trying to believe in himself. You know, that's really all it was. And then the next couple of years, the industry, New England especially, like everybody got in my head so much that I just, I struggled so much to believe myself. And I also felt badly in believing in myself because I was kind of being told by everybody that it was not the right thing to be doing. You know, if that makes any sense at all. It was just the things that I remember about that time, and I don't remember much because a lot of it was spent, I feel like totally unaware and unconscious. Like I wasn't paying a whole lot of attention, but
Yeah.
I was really trying to believe in myself. And there was a few years there, 08, 09, 09, 10 specifically, where it just absolutely did one of these. And it was coming at a time where I was like just about to go pro, and I had this sense that like the New England community was against me. And a lot of that was probably coming from me outwardly trying to express this ignorant confidence that like I was trying to build, and just getting pushback every step of the way.
Gotcha.
But seeing that interview, it totally makes sense. I get it now.
Dude, that brings back so many memories. Oh my gosh. We used to have so much fun.
Well, we're gonna this spring,
This
fall, Winchester
Can't wait.
Supercross, Moto Academy Supercross. We're gonna have all that fun all over again, Dave Drakes. What's your weapon of choice? Are you gonna race it on a Stark?
I have no idea. I thought about just trying to grab something and just leaving it at Tony's house, like find like a 23 450 or something, and just leaving it there. But I leave the Cowie there if I almost had a smoking deal in a Husky for like brand new for like $6,000, but they freaking sold it right from underneath me. But yeah, I don't know. I gotta figure out what I'm gonna do. Husky would be fun to race for sure. Or sorry, the Stark would be super fun to race there.
Sorry, I was screen sharing that whole time. Were you just watching yourself?
No, you were just really small.
But I can't wait. It's gonna bring back like, hopefully. I mean, I want to create those types of memories for
The new
Yeah.
next generation. You know what'd be cool is if we did like a New England Moto early 2000s like reunion where you just come in, you pay like, pay a fee or whatever, and it's just everybody that like used to do New England Moto in the early 2000s, and like maybe even recreate like the old school Winchester with like the big step up and like the double before it, and maybe like an old regional style or something, and door prizes, like keep the old school Moto like on a big screen somewhere playing nonstop. That would be really cool because it was such a community back then. It was such a cool place, man. You really like. I feel like I saw my Moto friends more than I saw my family. Just during the week we're training together, racing, or weekends we were racing together, constantly talking, and just I felt like that was that was your community, that was your people, you know. And I don't know if that's still going on nowadays.
Right. Yeah, I don't know. And I have a hunch that it's not as
Not
much.
right, right.
And I really do. I think all it will take is getting a series like this positioned to where it's cool again and it's fun again and it brings a community together. And I think just the way that just we do things as a team with the Moto Academy, anything that we do is so much fun.
Yeah.
And we're all having so much fun that everybody around us can't help but to have a blast.
Yeah, for sure.
It just, that's how it goes with everything we do with our ride days, with the summer camps, with the tour.
Yep.
It's really cool. It's weird how things work because I spend so much time thinking about it and imagining it, just anything.
Mm-hmm.
And then it happens sometimes so quickly that we're in March. By the time this comes out, there's only going to be 2 to 3 weeks left before the first race.
Yeah.
Crazy to me. And next thing you know, we're just going to be in it. It's going to have already come and gone.
Yeah.
I already can't believe that we're doing the summer camps would seem like a fresh idea. And we've already, those have come and gone, and we're coming into our second season of summer camps. There's so much that we do that I think part of it too, I hope, at least this is what I feel. People feel that the way that I think is really optimistic, and I believe in anybody and everybody. And I do think that rubs off in some way, shape, or form. There's a certain type of vibe when you go to these tour dates and when you go to our events where it attracts these people that they're not all the same. Definitely not. They're all, in fact, very different. But they believe in something bigger than themselves, and they believe in the idea of the community as well. And it's just really special.
Yeah.
I think that Winchester was definitely like that back in the day. But some of my, if not all of my best memories were like from Winchester and from the Winchester Regional. And
Yep. Oh my gosh, the regional was so fun, man. Oh,
crazy fun. I mean, almost all of the memories that I have are from those, and from the like Winchester Supercross, doing the night races, battling Matt Fisk. They would have a freestyle competition at like halftime where anybody could do it. Like I was on a 65 participating in this freestyle competition against all these other guys on big bikes. Do you remember? Did you ever remember seeing that?
I don't remember seeing that. I remember seeing the photos of like you doing like heel clickers and like little knack-knacks and stuff. Like,
Yeah,
I remember
the
that.
two-handed point.
The two-handed points. So that was the only time I've ever seen you not fit in 85, where it was, or not be too big. So at that point, I remember the two-handed point video photos. I was like, oh, okay, AJ looks kind of little back then, or like he actually might be able to pass in that class. Every other photo I've seen after that, it's AJ being 6'5" on a freaking suspiciously bone stock 85.
Dude, I got to bring back the two-handed point. It's almost like an MX versus ATV reflex. The taunt. Just the two-handed point.
Just with a completely sticker bombed stock 80.
So many stickers.
So many stickers, dude.
So many stickers.
Oh my gosh.
All right. Well, 2 hours on the dot, actually. We've done it. And we've done it. Man. We've done it way too long. And the only person listening right now is Driver Jamie. So Driver Jamie, thank you. He's actually ready for the first Moto Academy Supercross. I'm going to be on a Honda 250 for at least one of the classes. Maybe I'll race the Stark in the other.
Nice.
But I bought a brand new 25 Honda.
Okay. Yep. I'm going to ask you.
Yep.
Nice.
He's going to do the suspension on it. So I'm excited for that. He's going to give me a bit of like a hybrid setup.
Okay.
So Supercross-ish, because I need to be able to do the pro section. But I don't want it crazy stiff, because the rest of the track, for me at least, will be quite easy. So it's going to be tricky for him to figure that suspension out for his first shot at doing suspension for me. But Driver Jamie, I believe in you. I'm excited. Also, what else is going to go on that bike? Guts Racing wing seat. Jamie, make sure you order that, please.
Did I send you my pictures of my bike? I put the wing seat on. I did put the wing seat on. I'm gonna take your word for it because I saw it and I'm like, it looks like my bike has saddlebags. So I'm hoping it's pretty sick. But I got the Guts Racing.
But have you ridden with it yet or not yet?
I haven't ridden since the few laps I did in Arizona. So I think I'm gonna give it a try this weekend. The ankle's feeling good. The Achilles is feeling solid. I'm gonna give it a try this weekend. I think go test out the breaking the new boots, try the new setup, and see if we're back in action.
Have you ever ridden with a wing seat yet?
Have not.
Okay, so it's got to break in. So just know that the first time you ride, there's a chance that you might completely hate it. So just be open-minded to that. Do you have a spare seat to bring with you?
I can grab one.
Have you stood on the bike and
Yeah.
Does it feel
not
horrible?
That doesn't feel terrible, but I'm ditching the knee braces. And I'm gonna grab some I think the TP 199s or the Slakos. I got to email EVS and have them send me something, but
I'm excited
I'm
to
wondering,
hear.
Yes, I was gonna say that. I'm wondering how it's gonna be because I've been in braces for years. I can't remember the last time I wore knee pads. So or anything
This
less
would be a good
than
test.
Yeah. So I'm excited.
Yeah, you'll have to report back because I wore braces from the time I was 9 on a 65 until I was it would have been 2020 when I was at Travis's house for the pit bike race that he had. So most of my career,
yeah.
I was in braces.
That was a fun event too.
Yeah, he wicked fun. He first of all made fun of me for being completely geared up when I was the only one completely in gear at the pit bike race. But then said at the very least, like, take your braces off, put these knee pads on. And I tried them, was obsessed with them, and then never went back to a brace. Never will, as far as I'm concerned. So I'm curious to hear your opinion.
At least you weren't geared up with a neck brace on jumping into the foam pit. Because what kind of nerd would do that, right?
At least you got it around first try when I threw the bike on top of me.
I had the best one, dude. I went Mach 5.
You went huge from what I remember.
He said go fast and pull hard. I was like, oh, okay. And he's like, you didn't have to go that high. I'm like, well, dude, what is it? What do you want me to do? But dude,
yeah, you took his advice completely literally, which was perfect. And I didn't, because I didn't understand his advice. It didn't make sense to me. Like, so for what we're referencing is Travis Pastrana teaching us how to do a backflip into a foam pit.
Yeah.
All he tells me is, do a stand-up wheelie at the top of the jump face and don't turn right. And don't let go of the bike. So he gave me 3 rules. And it didn't process in my head. I'm like, what do you mean? Like, tell me more. Tell me the step-by-step process. Like, what else is involved in this? And I have myself and everybody's there. And now everybody is excited and getting geared up to do a backflip into a foam pit. It was you. It was Mackenzie. It was Mackenzie's girlfriend, Brittany.
Wait. Oh, also Luke and Bryce and I think Ross was there. We had a bunch of our friends. Please talk about Mackenzie's backflip.
Oh my God.
It will live in infamy.
Well, let's go. Can we go in order? So I go first, and I was kind of thrown to the wolves going first. I was the most nervous. I felt like probably of anybody, and just for that reason that I was overanalyzing the whole thing. Yes. Travis, this is on video somewhere too, all of it. Like Travis would give me a piece of advice, and I would just ask him a bunch of questions and or refute or like combat his advice to me and question his advice. And he made a bet that behind my back that I would let go of the bike upside down on my first attempt. And he was 100% sure of it. Yeah. And sure enough, I get to the takeoff. By the way, going second gear at Travis's house into the foam pit, which is like the quarter pipe all the way up against the foam pit.
Scary.
I can speak for myself, at least, in that I was horrified.
Yeah.
Because it's so steep.
And the scariest part is when you're at the top of the hill and everyone's cheering. Like, come on, rip it. That is the scariest moment because not only are you about to do this, but you're doing it at Pastrana's house, which is like the breeding ground for not only the coolest things that ever happened in the world, but some of the most horrific crashes in action sports history. Half of them are at Travis's house. So it's horrifying. It's exciting, but horrifying.
I was so scared. And so the advice basically also was like, second gear on it pretty good on a KLX 110. Some of you might not know, at least for me, that second gear going pretty good on a KLX 110 felt like I was going way too fast. That's what it felt like to me. Like it felt like I was going 100 miles an hour coming into this foam pit. And I'm coming up to it. I'm like, don't let go, don't let go, don't let go, don't let go, don't let go. But there was, as soon as I got upside down, everything in my body just told me to let go. And the bike went straight up, came straight back down, landed on me. I was totally fine. It didn't hurt whatsoever. I kind of got like, I was underneath it. Mackenzie was amazing and gave me so much peace of mind. And like, he jumped in so quick and get the bike hooked up and pulled off of you so fast.
We were so safe with him there.
So like, I trust Mackenzie with my life, maybe more than anybody. Shout out Mackenzie.
Shout out Mackenzie.
And so it took that for me to have the confidence then to know like, oh my God, Travis, his advice is right. I just did the worst thing. It could have been bad, but I'm fine. Didn't hurt at all. And now I know if I don't miss the pit and don't let go of the bike, there's almost no consequence to me jumping into this foam pit. So the second time, got it pretty much perfect. I think I rotated like while I was at the height of my jump, had already done one rotation. So I threw it again on like the start of the second rotation. Third attempt, got it perfect. Do you remember who went second? Luke?
Mackenzie?
I remember Luke being super pumped to just go and do it.
Luke crushed it. Yeah, Luke was excited. He had zero fear. But Luke's good at that stuff, dude. Backflips. That's Luke's wheelhouse, dude. He's insane like that.
I think my guess is he maybe went second because he was so gung ho about like he had no fear. He just wanted to do it. Nailed it perfect.
And then maybe Bryce. Bryce did pretty good too, if I remember correctly.
Bryce had backflipped on skis, I think. I'm pretty sure. Bryce seemed to have.
Bryce is good with like the upside down like orientation, just knowing where you are positional wise. Like him and Luke were just so good at that, man.
Yeah, he seemed to have no fear. Went out, got it first try. So now, like, I'm the only one who hasn't got it first try yet. Dave, you got it perfect first try, but went huge. I mean, you went like second gear. It seemed like wide open and just went massive.
Pretty much. I remember Brittany strong armed the whole time and just landed in a perfect pose upside down. But like, it just takes somebody trying to do like a attack position drill on the stand and just rotate them. Didn't move a single aorta, dude.
But committed fully.
And then Mackenzie, who should have been able to break the thing in half, because Mackenzie's like just pure muscle, dude. But he's the gentlest giant. Love the guy, dude.
I miss Mackenzie.
I miss him. I saw him a couple weeks ago actually at Tampa. Doing great. Shout out Viva Suspension. Dude, he went up the face of it and just got freaked out and let go, and the bike just went gently right back down the same side. Like, dude, you got to get it in the foam pit at least. It was so hilarious.
So his body goes in the foam pit and his bike goes back down the takeoff. And Travis was cracking up. He goes, "That is a first. I've never seen anybody do that." And Hubert was furious.
Pissed.
Hubert was pissed because these were like brand new pit bikes apparently, and everybody that goes there just ruins all of Travis's things. So Hubert is really protective of just trying, and he's probably the one responsible for fixing it all too. He just like doesn't want anybody to ruin Travis's stuff. Yeah. And I totally get it because Travis is so nice. He's not going to really say anything. So Travis was cracking up. Hubert's pissed. Did Mackenzie end up getting it? I think he did.
Yeah. I think everybody ended up getting it. Maybe Brittany didn't try again. I can't remember.
I feel like I remember Brittany getting it.
Okay.
Ross didn't try. My brother didn't try. So those were the only two that backed down and didn't do it.
Shout out Mikey, dude. And tell him to answer his phone because I text that guy just, how are you? Don't hear nothing back.
Just had dinner with him tonight.
Okay. How's he doing?
Matter of fact. He's got like long hair now.
Jeez. Dude, that guy, he's living the life. Just a famous DJ, just traveling all over the place, just DJing for a bunch of hot chicks. Dude, he has the life, dude. Oh my gosh.
He's in an apartment in Colchester, which I think they're really liking. So that's cool. What were we just talking about?
Travis's. There's something else that I wanted to mention about this trip.
How did we get into that conversation?
I have no idea. Knee braces, which led to Travis's wing seat from knee braces, getting your bike together.
Wow. Good
yeah.
backtrack. Good memory.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. So yeah, that was a great reverse engineered that one nicely, Dave.
Yeah, thank you.
So modifications to my bike, 2025 Honda 250. What is it called? CRF 250R?
Non-works edition or works edition?
Non-works edition.
Gotcha.
Driver Jamie will do the suspension.
Yep.
So getting suspension done. That's basically number one thing.
Shout out 4140.
Guts wing seat. So that means it's got the ribs across the top. That's key for anybody that gets a new bike. And then the wing on the side. If you don't know what that is, look it up. Highly recommend it. I'm 5'11". I think it's perfect for me. Anybody taller than 5'11", it becomes like exponentially more important the taller you get. Just gives you a great gripping point. Phoenix handlebars. So we have a Moto Academy special bar bend if you're in the app with the custom bar pad.
It's a must. It's a must.
Yeah. Especially in the Honda, because the Honda comes with bars that I feel like are not quite right.
A little lower.
This bar bend is perfect. They actually made this bar bend to fit, to get the levers in as much as I teach people to get them in, which is really cool. So yeah, Moto Academy bar bend, go in the app to be able to, only app members can get that bar. But so we got wing seat, suspension, bars. And driver Jamie, if you're listening to this, I hope I have Thai foot pegs floating around somewhere. Do I? I must. If not, can you order me some? Put those on. What else do I want?
Do you ever do? Oh yeah, the graphics are a given. Do you ever do like radiator braces, stuff like that?
No. I mean, on a Supercross race bike that like Mechanic Dan is building out, yes.
Yeah. Okay.
But on this bike, this will kind of just be, this will be like my Moto Academy Supercross race bike, I guess. It's going to be pretty basic. I mean,
Gotcha.
I think that actually the radiator braces are probably an inexpensive, good thing you could put on.
It's my first thing. I always do the big four. The first thing I buy are radiator braces, and then I go seat cover, foot pegs, the proper bars that I'm weird. I like the KTM bend for everything. So I'll do those. You will never see me unless it's a smoking deal or someone gives it to me for free. You will never see me do motor mods. You will never see me do high compression piston. You'll never see me do pipes. Like I'll do suspension all day. Always suspension. That's important for me. Heavy guy. I need my suspenders right, but you will never see me do like anything that is trying to produce more power out of the bike. Durability wise, for sure. You might see me throw a Hinson clutch in there because it's more durable. Radiator braces, stuff like that, but you won't see me do like, oh, I just got some cool head work, a float head, high compression piston, ECU tune. I'm like, if you hear the words ECU tune come out of my mouth, it's because I wanted the grandpa setting that is basically a KLX 110 out of the gate. That's
yeah.
it.
I mean, kind of the same for me. Maybe the only other change for that Honda is I'm pretty sure that bike comes with a 100 rear tire. So
yeah, you got to go
driver Jamie, if it does have a 100 rear tire, can you pop a 110 on there? I'm sure we have some tires floating around from my last Supercross season, hopefully. Yeah, and that's it. And that'll kind of be my race bike. So it'll look really nice, but it'll be pretty darn basic. And that's what I always tell students. Like those are kind of like the core things that you should invest in when you get a bike. The seat cover is the big underdog of people. Some people have no idea. And like,
it makes a difference.
I guess the stock seat is pretty slippery, isn't it? I'm like, yeah, no kidding. Like, it's like as if the thing was designed to just make you slide right off the back of it.
Yeah. Well, yeah, materials are cheaper. Why not? You know, but I get that. But yeah, the Guts seat cover, or, you know, any seat cover, obviously we're more partial to Guts, but any seat cover that you guys can get that is going to give you that extra grip, it takes a lot of the nervousness out of like your rider. You won't hold on as tight in the hands and stuff, and it'll make you focus on using, you know, the legs a little bit more.
Yeah, so the ribs will like literally grab your pants and hold your pants in place. In fact, I've had pants just blow apart because there was so much force trying to pull me back, and those ribs did such a good job of keeping my butt in place that my pants just blew apart. So
mine blew apart for a different reason, but yeah.
And on that note, we'll end this podcast because I got to go to bed. I'm hungry also now. So
yeah, I haven't had dinner.
And that's it. Moto Academy is on tour. The collective experience is firing on all syllables too. So if you guys want to intern for some cool racers, if you want to do a fan experience, go to thecollectivexp.com and Mr. Dave Drakes will be your host. And he's a good host. Okay. That's it. Toodles.